As a psychologist, the concept of letting go during healthy psychological development is a deceptively simple but crucial process that I've been interested in for over 35 years. It is not only a central feature required of personal development within depth psychology, but it also is a critical foundation within the mindfulness process. In fact, letting go is one of the 7 attitudinal foundations of mindfulness that Dr. Jon Kabat-Zinn identified as critical to the establishment of a new and healthier relationship with our individual human experience. While the theories behind the need for letting go are different in mindfulness as compared to depth psychology, both systems identify this attitude and action as important ones on the road to authenticity, wholeness, and well-being. From a mindfulness perspective, you have no doubt experienced negative thoughts and feelings that repetitively intrude into your consciousness. They are the ones that are not only frustrating, but also can be destructive to health, happiness, and well-being. These negative thoughts and feelings are the ones that just keep coming back and back and back. They just won't go away. But on the other hand, you have no doubt had memories of good experiences as well as fantasies of the future, which can feel pretty good. These too keep coming back and back, but are much more pleasant and therefore are ones that we usually welcome. However, negative as well as positive thoughts and feelings can crowd our waking awareness, which hinders our capacity to live and experience the present moment. Just this present moment, which is the one true moment that is in fact happening. Building the capacity to let go of both positive and negative ruminations and feelings is one of the tasks of mindfulness. While it too is a simple-sounding concept, it turns out to be an extremely challenging task. The challenging concept of letting go is often explained in mindfulness literature through a story of an inventive method used to catch monkeys. In one variation of the story, hunters in India cut a rectangular slot in the lower part of a coconut, just big enough for a monkey to put its open hand through. Inside the coconut, behind the slot, the hunters hollow out a cavity into which they put a sweet paste that monkeys love and desire. The hunters secure the coconut to the base of a tree, move away, and then watch as the monkey approaches, puts his open hand through the slot, and takes hold of the sweet paste. The monkey grabs the treat, but the hole is crafted in such a way that while an open hand can easily go in, a clenched fist gripping the treat cannot be pulled out. The monkey is trapped. It's trapped. But all the monkey needs to do to be free is to let go of the sweet paste, to open its hand and pull it through the slot. But most monkeys won't seem to do that. They lose their instinctual freedom because they won't let go. They just won't let go. Now, our human mind is somewhat similar. It has the power to latch on to certain thoughts and or feelings and finds it difficult to let go. With mindfulness, as you start paying attention to your inner experience, you rapidly discover that there are certain thoughts and feelings the mind seems to want to hold on to because they are particularly pleasant. These are the memories or fantasies that you enjoy playing out, so you try to prolong and conjure them up again and again. But on the other hand, there are many thoughts and feelings and experiences, either from your past or a projected future, that you try to get rid of, prevent, or deny because they are unpleasant, they are painful, or frightening in some way. In meditation practice, you intentionally put aside either the desire to keep replaying positive thoughts and emotions from your past experiences or from future potentialities, as well as push away the more negative intrusive thoughts and feelings. Instead of trying to grasp or reject them, simply let your experience be what it is and practice observing it from moment to moment, letting go of any attachment or aversion you have to either the positive or the negative. Letting go is a way of letting things be, of accepting them just as they are. As you have no doubt heard Sir Paul McCartney sing, "Let it be, let it be." And that is what letting go is all about within the mindfulness process. The mindfulness instructions are very simple. When you observe your mind grasping or pushing away, remind yourself to let go of those impulses on purpose, just to see what will happen when you do. Remember that mindfulness practice started with the simple identification of the thoughts, emotions, or body sensations that pulled your attention away from your anchor of awareness. When that occurred, you simply labeled them and then returned to your anchor of attention. You learned further strategies to work with such intrusions on your attention, and the common theme throughout was simply to let them go. Just let them go. Don't latch onto them, don't judge them, or fight them, debate them, or analyze them. Don't feed them with stories. You simply let them be, and in doing so, you let them go. Let them go like clouds dissipating in the hot summer air or waves washing over the sand. Letting go is not a foreign experience to you. You do it every night when you go to sleep. You lie down and let go of your mind and body. And you know what happens when you don't let go, when your mind will not slow down, when your emotions will not subside. You just don't get to sleep. Like the monkey who will not let go of the desired object, when you don't let go of the mind and body, you too lose your natural freedom to fall asleep. As Jon Kabat-Zinn reminds us, if you can go to sleep, you are already an expert in letting go. Now you just need to apply this skill in waking situations as well. And this does take practice, practice, practice. And it's here that the mindfulness you have been learning and practicing will hold you in good stead. But as you have also found, it's not always easy to change your relationship to your old way of being. Reflections on aging and letting go. By the time you're in your 50s or later, you've chalked up a lot of personal experiences. Many of them were no doubt positive and are now enjoyable memories. However, you have also likely accumulated many other experiences that you regret, or resent, or feel guilty about. You know which experiences I'm talking about. Challenging and unpleasant encounters, hurtful offenses against you inflicted by others, spiteful actions that you took, thoughts that you harbored, words that you spoke in anger. With advancing age, you've no doubt generated a good long list of regrets and resentments that are difficult to let go. The oldest couple that I saw in my psychotherapy practice were in their 80s. I'll call them Alfred and Helen, a couple who had been married for almost 60 years. The issue that brought them to therapy was Alfred's inability to let go of resentment that he felt towards his wife. Now, Helen readily admitted that she had spoken to Alfred in a derogatory manner during their first year of marriage and had apologized multiple times over the ensuing years for her thoughtless and angry outbursts. Alfred said that he could cognitively acknowledge that the personal slights Helen threw at him were not that significant, nor did they represent a pattern of her ongoing behavior towards him. But like so many of us, he still felt their sting, and therefore couldn't let them go. Even with the passage of the intervening years and the additional experiences that he and Helen shared, Alfred continued to be held hostage by those angry words spoken over a half-century ago. They both quickly clarified that they did not experience daily conflict, but rather that Alfred's resentment had erected a barrier that had insulated him from fully investing emotionally with Helen. Without diminishing Alfred's experience and the pain he felt, while sitting in the counseling room with them, I felt a wave of sadness. Sadness for the loss of deep intimacy that hadn't developed because of the impenetrable wall of resentment that stood between them. Such is the power of resentment that just won't let go. While you may initially conclude that Alfred's continuing resentment over so many years is an over-the-top reaction and an aberration, I would challenge you to explore your own experiences. What early judgments that others made about you do you still carry? What early judgments, either positive or negative, that you made about yourself still have the power to define who you are, or more accurately define who you told yourself you are? My experience, both in my own personal life as well as professional practice, has been that no matter what age, such declarative judgments are often still alive and well, and continue to influence our sense of self. Regrets, resentments, and forgiveness. It's my belief that Alfred's experience of holding resentment is not unusual, but rather reflective of the human experience. Although his resentment is specific to his life situation, everyone has been on the receiving end of hurtful words and actions. But in addition, whether wittingly or not, you have probably said or done something to cause another person pain and sorrow. The issue, therefore, is not if you have regrets over your words or actions, or resentments over what you have experienced from others, but rather, what are you going to do about them? What are you going to do about them? How do you deal with them in an ethical and sensitive manner, honoring both yourself and others in a way that allows you to let go of the destructive power that they often exert over you? In your aging years, the central question becomes, how can you finally let them go? While you may feel compassion for yourself and others, I want to talk about letting go through forgiveness, as it is a direct action with the power to break down the barriers of regrets and resentments. Without the capacity to ask for and accept forgiveness, lives can overflow with all the accumulated hurts, pains, and sorrows that living in a social world inevitably brings. The Oxford Dictionary defines forgive as cease to feel angry or resentful towards, as well as pardon an offender or offense. While this definition conveys the literal aspects of the word, a better and for me more emotionally meaningful way to understand the essence of forgiveness was offered by Dr. Jack Kornfield at a meditation retreat that I attended many years ago outside of Taos, New Mexico. Jack's definition feels much more sensitive and accurate to our lived experiences. He says, forgiveness means giving up all hope for a better past. Forgiveness means giving up all hope for a better past. Now take a moment to digest the essence of Jack's understanding of forgiveness and how it relates to your life. Do you hold on to the past in the hope that it will be different, especially better? Hoping not only that the big-ticket items of your life will be better, but also the many smaller transgressions. Well, maybe not even wholesale better, even just a little nudge better, but nevertheless holding out hope for a different past. Forgiveness at its core is really about your own well-being, and this is really the essence of what Jack's definition is. Forgiveness is a way to let go of the pain that you, just like Alfred, have carried. Regret about what you have done or said, resentment of actions imposed upon you. What would your life be like without this collection of reliving regrets and resentments? How much lighter and easier would your life be? As Lewis Smeds, Christian professor of theology, observed, to forgive is to set a prisoner free and discover the prisoner was you. The first forgiveness, regret with others. In mindfulness meditation, you have an opportunity to move closer to the feelings of regret that you may be carrying about the hurt your words or actions caused another. Recognizing your feelings of regret, embarrassment, or guilt without defensively ignoring, avoiding, or justifying them allows for an honest reflection on the harm done to others by your words and actions. I'm not talking only about large events that you may have caused or participated in, but also about smaller, albeit nevertheless powerful transgressions that caused others pain or sorrow, whether you meant to or not, such as a sharp rebuke, a dismissive action, a thoughtless gesture, satisfying a selfish desire at the expense of another, turning away upon seeing the suffering of another. But understand that asking another person you have harmed for forgiveness takes courage, a lot of courage. Sincerely asking for forgiveness means holding a lot of your pain. Specifically, it involves holding your own pain as you acknowledge the negative effect of your words or actions on others. But in addition, you also need to open through empathic attunement to the hurt that you caused to the other. So it's hurt, not only your own, but the other, that needs to be felt and held. Mindfulness helps you to prepare to be fully with whatever emotions arise, and that includes emotional pain. Even with such practices, however, this is not an easy process, but until you can consciously meet the other person's suffering, true forgiveness cannot take place. Asking for forgiveness means that you will need to take full responsibility for your words or actions, not to justify or analyze or try to share the blame. Even though the other person may have played a role in the situation, in the end it was your words or actions that created your feelings of regret and guilt. The other's involvement is their responsibility to deal with. A critical aspect of asking another for forgiveness means not only taking full responsibility for your words or actions, but that it also needs to be coupled with your declaration that you will not do this again. Without such an assertion, asking for forgiveness becomes a hollow and meaningless exercise. It takes courage to ask for forgiveness not only because of the need to feel painful emotions, both within yourself and the other, but also because you have no control over the outcome. The acceptance, or not, of your request for forgiveness is completely out of your hands, as it recognizes the sovereignty of the other person. They may or may not at this time or any time in the future be willing and or able to accept your offering. Mindfulness practice helps you to prepare for this reality through the attitudinal foundations of acceptance, non-judging, trust, non-striving, and patience. The second forgiveness, resentment with others. As my client Alfred experienced over many decades, holding on to resentment about what someone has said or done to you is a powerful and potentially destructive force, over and above the sting arising from the original transgression. At the same time, forgiving someone for offenses they have caused also takes great courage. Keep in mind that forgiving the person who has hurt or harmed you does not mean condoning their actions, nor are you trying to forget what took place. Rather, forgiveness releases you from the often painful and limiting cage that your resentment has built and fortified. While I cannot recall the name of the source, I clearly remember a quote which is apt for this experience. It says, "He who continues to anger you conquers you. He who continues to anger you conquers you." Now, forgiving another can be a long process, and it cannot be rushed. Forgiveness often feels like it has a life of its own with an unknown timetable. You need to honor the process. In addition, you may also experience increased emotional upheaval as you begin exploring forgiveness of another. This is certainly not unusual, but it doesn't mean that forgiveness is impossible. Forgiveness, though, is not to be taken lightly or entered impetuously. It has been mistakenly described as a weakness of character or acquiescence to the perpetrator, but true heartfelt forgiveness is anything but. One critical component, in addition to not condoning the other's words or actions, is your openly stated commitment that you will do everything in your power to not fall prey or allow such breaches to occur again. While this is in no way intended to blame you for another's unacceptable behavior, it is a declaration of your intention to act in a healthy and conscious manner in the future, to honor yourself through taking care of yourself to the best of your abilities. Mindfulness and compassion practices can hold and nurture the capacity to be with resentment and to develop and establish a new relationship with the harm done to you. Just as mindfulness helped you work with deep pain and grief experiences, it can support you as you recognize and hold painful emotions associated with wrongs that you have experienced. When the emotions are particularly powerful, just touching up against them, holding them as your anchor of awareness through perhaps half a breath, even half a breath, or one breath, or two breaths, begins to establish a new relationship with them. Self-compassion and loving-kindness practices, especially directed at yourself, can be highly beneficial. Be good to yourself during this forgiveness process. Don't rush the forgiveness practice. It will unfold as it will. The mindfulness practice that you have been developing, the attitudinal foundations of acceptance, non-judging, trust, non-striving, and patience will support you as you move through this process. But it is important to be clear that destructive experiences, such as abuse and trauma that you may have experienced, often require professional assistance in terms of changing your relationships to them. The field of trauma-focused psychotherapy has developed through the recognition that some traumas can reshape the body and the brain and therefore require specialized intervention. Compassion for yourself can motivate you to explore forgiveness, but wisdom will assist you in knowing how best to bring it about. The third forgiveness, regret and resentment with yourself. The two focuses of regret for your actions and resentment of others for what they may have done to you are usually the two focuses of forgiveness. But there is a third one that is also critical to explore, and that is the experience that you may have harmed yourself through your thoughts, beliefs, and actions. Specifically, speaking or acting in ways that have harmed others can cause not only pain to them, but also cause you pain. Not only because of personal regret, but also because it changed the relationship itself. In addition, you may have even experienced harm through the negative judgments that you have laid upon yourself, such as decreeing yourself incompetent, or stupid, ugly, fat, unlovable, or the 1,001 other declarative verdicts that undermine your sense of self. Or you may have harmed yourself through decisions you made, based not on a reasonable assessment of the facts, but rather on your own fear. The education you passed up, a job you didn't try for, a promotion you turned down, pleasurable experiences you denied yourself, the children you didn't have, the people to whom you didn't open your heart, all because you were trying to avoid potential failure and concomitant pain and hurt and sorrow. A compassionate review of your life's choices and acknowledgement of the limitations that you have imposed upon yourself is a step towards forgiveness. Forgiveness compassionately directed toward yourself. In a review of this kind, catalog not only your choices, but also the causes and conditions that led to your beliefs and actions. The possibility of forgiveness opens when you recognize that your decisions arose not from flaws in your character, but rather because of your limited or mistaken understanding of who you were at the time, as well as your capacity to meet and hold the often conflicting feelings that such decisions entail. One of the wise sayings that I learned many years ago and have often shared with clients is, every decision involves a sacrifice. Every decision involves a sacrifice. When you choose one thing, you are by default giving up something else. At any one time, if you decide to go to the baseball game, you give up the opportunity to attend the opera. In that specific moment, it is one choice and not the other. It is simply impossible to get everything, which means, of course, that limitations in life are not restricted to you. They are simply part of the human experience. Once you recognize and accept the common humanity of self-compassion, the goal is no longer getting everything in life, but rather consciously knowing what you are sacrificing by your decision, and then rationally and emotionally evaluating what you are willing to sacrifice. Mindfully responding, not just reacting. And with this understanding, mindfulness and compassion practices allows you to forgive yourself for your beliefs, decisions, and actions. Remember, however, that genuine forgiveness also demands a declaration that you will not act in a similar destructive manner in the future to yourself, and therefore requires a different way of being towards yourself. Becoming more conscious of what is important to you and having the courage to pursue such goals is facilitated through self-forgiveness. In mindfulness and compassion practices, you have an opportunity to establish a new foundation, no matter what your age, to live fully this life that is yours, and in so doing, to be a better friend to yourself. The rest of the story. I wish I could tell you the end of the story about my client Alfred's resentment towards his wife Helen, but unfortunately I can't. After our first session, they made a follow-up appointment, but later canceled it and didn't reschedule. I was never given a reason why. Perhaps they weren't confident that I could accompany them through this thorny issue. Or maybe one or both of them decided that they were not ready to do the work of psychotherapy. I did tell them that working with me would require a deep exploration of their emotional relationship, not only to each other as a couple, but more importantly, also to themselves. And perhaps that was too threatening. I just don't know. but I have thought of them over the years and wondered what happened to them. I hope with a sense of compassion that they did find someone to help them with their long-suffering struggles. I've also wondered whether seeking professional assistance many years earlier would have made a difference in the resolution of their difficulties. I don't know if it would have, but I do know that forgiveness is often a long process that has its own hidden timetable. This is a good reminder to not put off addressing the regrets and resentments each of us has experienced. Ernest Hemingway told us, "Today is only one day in all the days that will ever be. But what will happen in all the other days that ever come can depend on what you do today." Our aging years, with the recognition of time limitations, provides the impetus to compassionately question in regards to addressing your relationship to regrets and resentments. If not now, when?